The galaxy was full of advanced civilizations, powerful technologies, and brilliant minds. But in the middle of it all, Earth remained just another backwater planet, small, primitive, and insignificant. The people of Earth had always been thought of as harmless. Their technology was rudimentary, their ships slow, and their weapons outdated. The idea that something could come from Earth to threaten the galaxy seemed impossible. Yet the unthinkable was about to happen. On a quiet corner of Earth, a young boy named Leo was tinkering in his room, surrounded by parts, wires, and tools scattered everywhere. Leo was no ordinary child. He had a brilliant mind, one that could easily match the greatest scientific minds of the galaxy. But unlike the scientists and engineers in space, Leo didn't work for glory, fame, or power. He just wanted to make things. His latest project was something he believed would help with his schoolwork, a new communication device. He didn't think it would do anything more than allow him to send quick messages to his friends, or maybe even a way to get homework help a little faster. It was supposed to be simple. Leo had always been good with machines, and this invention was no different. He was using basic tools, mixing parts he'd found in his school's junkyard. But to Leo, every creation was an adventure. With the flick of a switch, he powered it on. At first, nothing happened. The small device lit up with a soft blue light, and Leo smiled, pleased with his work. But then something strange began. The lights on the machine blinked rapidly, and a low hum filled the room, growing louder with each passing second. Leo stepped back, his eyes wide with confusion. Was it malfunctioning? He quickly began to fiddle with the settings, trying to figure out what had gone wrong. What Leo didn't know was that his small invention wasn't malfunctioning. It was awakening. The machine had sent a signal so powerful that it pierced through the fabric of space itself. Earth had always been thought to be a harmless, insignificant planet, too far behind the rest of the galaxy in terms of technology. But now, for the first time, something from Earth had reached out to the stars. And the galaxy would soon know. The signal didn't just echo in the empty space around Earth. It rippled across the universe, catching the attention of the most advanced beings in the galaxy. Governments, military leaders, and scientists from dozens of different worlds began to take notice. At first, they didn't know what it was. The device on Earth was too small, too primitive, to send a signal with such power. And yet there it was, a signal strong enough to be detected from light years away. Among those who noticed the strange signal were the Council of Elders, a group of powerful beings who had controlled much of the galaxy for centuries. They were responsible for keeping the balance of power in the universe, and they did not take threats lightly. When they heard about the signal, they immediately knew it was no accident. The technology was not of their making, and it was far too strong to have been created by a simple human child. They decided to investigate. As the council discussed the matter, a sense of unease began to spread through their ranks. They had never paid much attention to Earth before. It was just another planet, one of many in the galaxy, but now the Earth's signal could change everything. The elders knew that if someone on Earth had managed to build such a device, they could be far more advanced than they appeared. They didn't know how, but they were certain that this simple invention was the beginning of something much more dangerous. Back on Earth, Leo was still unaware of the turmoil his creation had caused. He was too focused on making sure his device worked. As he checked the final adjustments, the humming sound from the device began to change. It became deeper, more resonant. Leo couldn't understand why the device was acting so strangely, but before he could make any more adjustments, the humming stopped. A moment of silence passed, and then everything went black. Leo gasped, his heart racing. What had happened? The lights in his room flickered back on, but now there was a new feeling in the air. Something was different. He walked to the window, peering out. The stars above seemed closer, brighter, but there was something else. The air felt heavy, as if the world was holding its breath. Unbeknownst to Leo, His device had not only sent a signal but had also altered the fabric of space. The galaxy's powerful sensors had begun to pick up strange energy fluctuations, and some planets experienced unusual gravitational shifts. Entire star systems were affected. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. A small, seemingly harmless invention had just triggered the most significant event Earth had ever been a part of. Across the galaxy, ships began to shift course, heading towards Earth at incredible speeds. The Council of Elders had issued an order to send investigators. They needed to learn what was behind this unprecedented event, and they were not the only ones. Other factions, both hostile and neutral, were preparing their own missions. The race to discover Earth's secret had begun. But for Leo, it was still just another day, and he had no idea that his invention had changed everything. The simple creation that he had believed was only for homework had now drawn the attention of beings far more powerful than he could ever imagine. The peaceful life he knew on Earth was about to be shattered. His invention, which seemed so harmless, had shaken the galaxy, and no one was ready for what came next. The device, sitting innocently on Leo's desk, hummed quietly, as if nothing had happened. He stared at it, puzzled. The lights had flickered, the air had grown strangely tense, and yet he felt no immediate danger. But the galaxy, light years away, had already started to feel the ripples of what he had unknowingly unleashed. On a remote planet called Zeracon, a military commander named Jarek sat in his command center. He was reading a report when an alarm suddenly blared. His eyes shot to the screen. The signal from Earth had been detected. He narrowed his eyes. He knew what this meant. Zeracon's intelligence had been monitoring every planet in the galaxy for decades. No one had thought to look at Earth, a backwater planet, far from the core, not even worthy of the most basic survey. But now the unimaginable had happened. Jarek's team scrambled to analyze the signal. He could feel the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. The signal from Earth wasn't just a normal transmission. It was a powerful, directed signal, too advanced for a simple species like humans. The implications were terrifying. Someone on Earth had developed technology that far surpassed what the rest of the galaxy had even begun to imagine. Jarek quickly ordered a deep scan of the signal's origin and sent a report to the Council. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, more and more systems were picking up strange energy patterns. A prestigious science academy on the planet Kairos had just finished its daily study when they too detected the strange pulse coming from Earth. A group of Kairosian researchers, known for their intellect and technological superiority, found themselves equally perplexed. A pulse of energy that could penetrate the core of their most secure systems. Impossible. No race in the galaxy, not even the Kairosians themselves, could generate a signal like that without an immense power source, and certainly not a primitive world like Earth. Professor Ila, a top-tier scientist at the Academy, immediately began running simulations. Her colleagues gathered around, equally baffled. The more they analyzed, the more questions arose. The signal had come from a location far below what was thought to be Earth's capacity. It was impossible. As more news of the strange signal spread, a quiet panic began to spread through the galaxy. The Council of Elders was the first to recognize the urgency of the situation. They had always believed Earth was a place to be ignored, never a threat to anyone. After all, their technology was crude at best, their history filled with wars, division, and chaos. Nothing Earth had done in the past had warranted any real attention. But now, something had changed. The signal wasn't just a technological anomaly, it was a warning. Earth had awakened something in the universe that had remained dormant for centuries. The Elders could feel the weight of the situation. Whoever or whatever had triggered the signal wasn't just a curious child on Earth. They were a harbinger of something much darker. But on Earth, life continued as usual. Leo sat at his desk, still unsure about the strange events unfolding around him. He fiddled with the device, trying to make sense of what had happened. He hadn't intended for anything so monumental to occur. He had just wanted to send a simple message to his friend about homework, but it seemed that his small creation had sparked something far greater than he could imagine. That evening, Leo went to bed early, not realizing that all across the galaxy, beings far more powerful than he could fathom were mobilizing, preparing to investigate Earth, and they would not be coming in peace. Unbeknownst to Leo, his invention was already on its way to becoming a symbol of fear, something that no one in the galaxy would soon forget. He had unknowingly poked the hornet's nest, and the hornets were coming for him, and for Earth. Meanwhile, on Zeracon, Jarek prepared for the worst. He knew that Earth's signal was a harbinger of something monumental. As his team prepared their fleet for the long journey to Earth, Jarek gave one final order. "We will find out what Earth has become, and we will stop it, no matter what it takes." On Kairos, Professor Ilot couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy was on the brink of something they couldn't control. The signal from Earth wasn't just a signal. It was a beacon, a signal of power, and it had drawn the attention of every major power in the galaxy. The balance of power was about to shift, whether anyone was ready for it or not. Back on Earth, Leo awoke the next morning, unaware that his life was about to change forever. His innocent creation, designed to make homework easier, had set into motion a chain of events that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. And soon, Earth would no longer be seen as harmless. It would be seen as a threat, one that no one, not even the most advanced civilizations, was prepared for. As the stars outside twinkled quietly, the first waves of change had begun. The shockwaves caused by Leo's invention spread faster than anyone could anticipate. Planets light years away from Earth had begun to mobilize, and the galaxy had started to shift. For the first time in eons, the galaxy's most powerful civilizations were starting to feel genuine fear. They didn't know what Earth had become, but they knew it was something they had to investigate and neutralize, if necessary. On the planet Trion, home to one of the most feared military empires in the galaxy, Emperor Valgar stared at the screen in disbelief. "What is this nonsense?" he muttered, pointing to the stream of data coming from his intelligence network. His advisors, the best minds in the empire, were equally stunned. The signal from Earth, no, the energy pulse, was far beyond anything they could comprehend. No known species in the galaxy had the capability to produce such power. "We need more information, my Emperor," said General Voro, a trusted advisor. "We are not sure if it's a weapon, a message, or something else entirely." Valgar's eyes narrowed. "Then we'll find out. Deploy the fleet to Earth immediately and prepare for a worst-case scenario." The order was sent, and within hours, Trion's massive warships began their journey to Earth. The galaxy's largest empire, with its vast armies, had its eyes set on a tiny, insignificant planet in the far corner of the universe. Meanwhile, on the peaceful world of Verdana, the scientists were having similar reactions. The leader of the Verdanians, a wise and ancient race known for their advanced knowledge of physics, Professor Zener, was in a state of deep concern. His planet had prided itself on its non-interventionist stance, preferring diplomacy over military force. However, the energy readings from Earth were unlike anything he had ever seen. No species, no matter how advanced, should have been able to generate this much power. "This is a disaster waiting to happen," Zener said to his council of elders. "We cannot ignore this. We must approach Earth carefully. But we must also be prepared to intervene if things go south." Zener ordered the immediate dispatch of a scientific expedition to Earth, though he kept his hopes low that peaceful dialogue could resolve the issue. If Earth's capabilities had truly reached the level suggested by the signal, then something would have to be done about it. The fear of an uncontrolled power in the galaxy was too great. Back on Earth, Leo's invention sat untouched on his desk, still humming quietly as the human child went about his day. Unaware of the terror his device had caused, Leo was more focused on how he could make it work better. He wasn't even aware that powerful fleets from distant worlds were heading straight for his small, quiet planet. But someone else on Earth, someone with more knowledge of technology than most, had started to take notice. Max, Leo's older cousin and a young engineer, had been quietly observing Leo's progress from the shadows. He had always been fascinated by Leo's knack for inventing, but now that something far larger was unfolding, Max couldn't help but worry. He had an inkling that Leo's device was no ordinary creation. It was a game changer, and not just on Earth. Max's eyes widened in shock when he began to analyze the data from Leo's device more closely. The pulse wasn't just strong. It was structured, organized in a way that was beyond human understanding. Someone, or something, had guided the development of this technology. It was almost like the device had a hidden purpose. Max immediately contacted some of the top scientists he knew, but as soon as he started sharing the data, he realized that he was being watched. In a darkened room, a shadowy figure watched Max's every move. The figure was aware of what had happened. They knew that Leo had unlocked something incredibly dangerous, something that could change the fate of the galaxy. Meanwhile, light years away, the Galactic Council's response was swift and decisive. The leaders of dozens of worlds convened to discuss the implications of Earth's new signal. Their discussions were filled with tension and disbelief. After centuries of peace, the idea that a previously overlooked planet had suddenly become a threat sent a ripple of fear through every leader's heart. "We must act now," said one of the council members, a formidable leader from the Balaran Empire. "If we wait, the human race will have time to fully develop their power. If we let them grow unchecked, they will be unstoppable. We cannot risk that." As they debated, a large holographic map of the galaxy flickered to life. The galaxy's most advanced warships and research ships began to converge on Earth from every direction. There was no turning back now. Whether the humans were ready or not, they were about to be thrust into a galactic storm that they could not avoid. Back on Earth, Leo was still unaware of the growing storm on the horizon. He continued to experiment with his device, trying to refine it. However, something felt off. He couldn't shake the feeling that his little project had drawn attention. As he looked out the window, he noticed strange lights flickering across the sky. It was nothing that he could explain. Was it just a trick of the light, or was something, or someone, watching? Leo felt a shiver down his spine, unaware that this was just the beginning of something that would change Earth's future forever. Elsewhere in the galaxy, the clock was ticking. Earth's invention, a simple, harmless device, had triggered a chain reaction that no one could undo. The galaxy's most powerful beings were on their way, and they were ready to do whatever it took to control what Leo had unknowingly unleashed. The galaxy was about to discover what the human race was truly capable of, and no one was ready for the consequences. The approaching fleets had been detected. Earth's military and civilian systems were in a state of high alert as satellites and ground sensors picked up strange objects moving through space. At first, they thought it might be a glitch, a mistake in their equipment. But as the objects grew larger and more defined, panic set in. Unknown ships from distant worlds were on their way, and they were heading straight for Earth. In the quiet of Leo's home, the sound of a phone buzzing broke the silence. Max's face was pale, his eyes glued to the screen. It was a call from one of his colleagues in the government. As he answered, the voice on the other end was sharp and urgent. "Max, we've detected fleets moving toward Earth. We believe they're from other worlds. Whatever Leo's device did, it's brought their attention, and they're coming for us." Max's heart raced. He had known something was wrong, but now the implications were becoming too real. These alien forces weren't here for peaceful negotiations. They were coming with one goal in mind: to control or destroy Earth's newfound power. Max quickly left the call and rushed to Leo's room, finding the young boy sitting in front of his invention, still tinkering. He didn't know what to do, how to explain the danger that was approaching. "Leo," Max said, his voice trembling, "we need to move. Now." Leo blinked up at him, confused. "Why? What's going on?" Max grabbed Leo by the arm, pulling him toward the door. "You've done something. Something that has made these ships come. You don't understand, but we need to get you out of here before they get here." Leo's mind was racing, trying to piece together what Max was saying. The child had no idea that his innocent creation had set off a galactic chain reaction. He just wanted to help, to understand, to explore the possibilities. But now, as Max's urgency became clear, Leo's innocent curiosity turned to fear. Meanwhile, the first of the alien ships had entered Earth's atmosphere, their colossal, sleek forms descending through the clouds. These were no simple explorers. They were armed to the teeth, with advanced weapons, shields, and technology far beyond Earth's capabilities. They were ready to deal with whatever threat awaited them. On board the lead ship, Admiral Karish, a seasoned commander of the Fyrak fleet, watched as the world below grew closer. The Fyrak were a race of highly intelligent, military-minded beings, known for their calculated and ruthless approach. They had fought in countless galactic wars, and the news of a Class 14 death world had never once made them hesitate. But now, as they entered Earth's atmosphere, Karish felt a shiver down his spine. This was unlike any mission he had ever encountered. "Commander, the planet is showing increased activity," his first officer reported. "We are detecting life forms with remarkable resistance to environmental stress." The signal we received indicated advanced technology, far beyond anything we've seen. Karish nodded, gripping the control panel. "Prepare the landing party, but stay alert. We don't know what we're dealing with yet." As the Fyrak ships touched down, the atmosphere grew tense on Earth. News spread like wildfire. Governments were scrambling to assess the situation, activating defense systems that had been dormant for years. Panic set in among the general population as people tried to make sense of the alien ships in the sky. Max and Leo were hiding in an underground bunker, the only place that could possibly keep them safe. Leo sat, his hands shaking, wondering if he would ever see his family again. "I didn't mean to cause any trouble," he whispered to Max. "I just wanted to make something fun." Max clenched his jaw, trying to keep calm. "You didn't know what it would cause, Leo. None of us did." On the surface, chaos was unfolding. The Fyrak ships began to land, releasing their soldiers into Earth's atmosphere. The first few steps they took were cautious, testing the air, feeling the ground beneath them. There was something different about this world, a primal energy in the very soil that made their sensors go haywire. The moment their boots touched the ground, the planet seemed to react, vibrating with an intensity that no one expected. The Fyrak soldiers froze, their senses overwhelmed. What was this energy? It wasn't just the planet. There was something deeper, something hidden that the humans had unlocked, and it was radiating from the very core of Earth. "We need to find the source," Admiral Karish commanded. "The humans have to know what they've unleashed. If this world has reached this level of power, it poses a threat to the entire galaxy." They had no idea how right he was. As the alien forces spread across the planet, they began to uncover Earth's most dangerous secrets, secrets that had remained hidden from the universe for millennia, secrets that no one was prepared to face. Max and Leo, deep underground, had no way of knowing that the world above was teetering on the edge of war. They could only hear the distant sounds of ships landing, of the hum of technology far beyond their comprehension. All they knew was that they were at the heart of something far greater than they had ever imagined. As the first contact with Earth's alien visitors unfolded, everyone in the galaxy would soon learn just how dangerous a harmless invention from an Earth child could truly be. The air in the underground bunker was thick with tension. Max and Leo sat side by side, trying to make sense of the chaos unfolding above them. They could hear the distant hum of alien ships, their advanced engines vibrating through the Earth's crust. The sound was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. "Max," Leo whispered, his voice filled with fear. "What if they don't go away? What if they find us?" Max's gaze was locked on the screen of a small device, showing a live feed of the alien ships descending onto Earth's cities. It wasn't just one or two ships anymore. It was a fleet. The entire sky was filled with their massive, imposing shapes. The footage from Earth's satellites showed the ships landing and releasing strange armored beings. The Firok soldiers moved with precision, scanning the terrain as if searching for something or someone. Max's mind raced, trying to figure out their next move. We can't hide forever, Leo. They'll find us eventually. Just then, a new transmission appeared on the screen. It was a direct message from Earth's military command, warning civilians and advising everyone to stay inside. The message was filled with cryptic terms, but one thing was clear. The alien forces were searching for the source of the anomaly. And that source, unbeknownst to the aliens, was sitting quietly in Max's hands. The invention Leo had created was more than just a simple device. It was a key that had unknowingly unlocked the attention of the galaxy's most dangerous species. No one, including Leo, understood its true purpose. All Leo had wanted was to make something unique, a machine that could detect energy signatures across the galaxy. But instead, he had created a device that could be traced, a device that could be used to access the deepest secrets of Earth's power. As the day wore on, reports from all over Earth painted a grim picture. Cities were in chaos. Governments were scrambling to make sense of the alien presence, trying to communicate with beings who didn't speak any known human language. And everywhere, there were whispers. It's the death world. They know we're here. Meanwhile, the Firok soldiers were getting closer to their goal. With every step they took, they discovered more of Earth's terrifying capabilities. The soil, the air, the water, everything about Earth seemed alive with untapped power. It was almost as if the planet itself was a weapon, a force of nature waiting to be unleashed. The Firok military, skilled and relentless, had only one objective: to secure whatever power Earth held and to destroy any threats that stood in their way. They had dealt with hostile worlds before, but Earth's energy signature was unlike anything they had encountered. Commander Karish, leader of the Firok fleet, stood before a massive holographic display, analyzing data streams coming in from the surface. His sharp eyes scanned the information, and a cold shiver ran down his spine. He had seen many planets, but Earth was different. This was a world that could not be allowed to live, at least not without being controlled. "We need to act quickly," Karish muttered, his voice filled with urgency. "If Earth's power is what I think it is, the galaxy will be in grave danger. We cannot let them harness it." At the same time, far below, Max and Leo were starting to understand the magnitude of their situation. Leo's invention wasn't just a toy, it was a beacon. It had attracted the Firok, who now knew of Earth's potential as a Class 14 death world, a planet capable of producing unimaginable destruction. If they could tap into that power, they could reshape the entire galaxy. But that would come at a cost, one that Earth would have to pay. Max's thoughts were interrupted by the sudden sound of footsteps. They were heavy and deliberate, echoing through the underground bunker. Max froze, his heart racing. He glanced at Leo, whose wide eyes were filled with fear. "They're here," Max whispered. The sound grew louder. The Firok soldiers had arrived. In a panic, Max grabbed Leo by the arm. "We need to leave. Now." But Leo hesitated, staring at his device. The strange energy readings were still coming through, flickering on the small screen. They were growing stronger, and Leo felt a pull toward it. He didn't fully understand why, but there was something irresistible about it, a connection that felt both dangerous and powerful. Max looked at the device in Leo's hands. "Leo, we don't have time for this. We need to go." But Leo's fingers hovered over the controls. He didn't want to cause any more trouble, but deep inside, he knew that what he had created was the key to everything. It wasn't just about alien invaders or defense systems. It was about a force much greater than himself, a power that could change the fate of Earth, and possibly the entire universe. Before Max could stop him, Leo pressed a button on the device. A loud hum filled the air, vibrating through the ground beneath them. The lights flickered, and the room shook with intensity. Max's heart skipped a beat. He realized with horror that Leo had activated the device in the wrong way, opening a link to something far beyond their control. From above, the Firok soldiers felt the shift. Their sensors picked up a surge of energy coming from beneath the surface. It was the source. It was Earth's deadly secret, now fully awakened. Max and Leo exchanged terrified glances. They had no idea what they had just unleashed, but they knew one thing for certain. Things were about to get far worse. The Firok were coming for them, and this time, they weren't leaving until they had what they came for. The race for survival had just begun. The hum from Leo's device grew louder, vibrating through the walls of the underground bunker. Max's heart pounded in his chest as the ground beneath them trembled. He could feel the shift in the air. Something had changed. The presence of the Firok soldiers above was no longer their greatest threat. Whatever Leo had just activated was far worse. Max grabbed Leo by the shoulders, shaking him out of his trance. "Leo, what have you done? You've made it worse." Leo stared at the device in his hands, his eyes wide with both fear and wonder. "I didn't mean to," he whispered. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I thought it could just be a signal." The ground continued to shake, and suddenly there was a burst of light, a brilliant flash that illuminated the room before fading. Both boys stood in stunned silence, their minds struggling to comprehend what had just occurred. The device's energy had surged beyond anything they could have imagined. Outside, the Firok soldiers' movements halted. Commander Karish stared at the display screen, his hands clenched into fists. The signal they had been tracking was no longer a faint trace. It was now a powerful, undeniable force. Karish had spent years studying war strategies, tracking the most dangerous species in the galaxy. But nothing had prepared him for this. Earth had just revealed something far more dangerous than he could have imagined. The signal, its change. Karish muttered under his breath. This isn't just a planet. It's a weapon. The Firok fleet had always been prepared for battle, but they had never encountered a world like Earth. They had learned of its terrifying potential from distant sources, but seeing it firsthand, feeling its power, was something else entirely. The energy coming from the surface was unlike anything they had ever experienced. It was raw, chaotic, and incredibly volatile. The very planet was alive with energy, a force waiting to be unleashed. Back in the bunker, Max and Leo were scrambling to comprehend the scope of the disaster they had set into motion. Leo continued to stare at the device, his fingers trembling as he tried to assess the damage. He knew that the energy readings were unlike anything Earth's technology had ever produced. This was no ordinary invention. It was a signal to the universe, a call that had been answered by the galaxy's deadliest species. "I didn't mean to activate it," Leo whispered, his voice shaking. "I didn't know it would." Max cut him off, his face pale. "It doesn't matter what you meant. We've got to get out of here. They'll be here any minute." Max tried to pull Leo toward the exit, but Leo didn't move. His eyes were glued to the screen of the device, which flickered with strange, fluctuating patterns. Then, without warning, the device emitted another loud hum, this time accompanied by a deep, resonating pulse. The pulse echoed through the entire bunker, sending vibrations that rattled the walls. Max stumbled, his vision blurring for a moment as the sound filled his ears. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, the pulse stopped. Leo looked up, his expression a mix of awe and fear. "It's still here," he murmured. "The power, it's still here. It hasn't gone away." Max's stomach turned as he looked around, realizing the full extent of what they had just triggered. They had not only sent a signal to the Firok, but to the universe. Whatever the Firok had seen on Earth was not just the technology or the planet's energy. It was something far darker. Earth was now a target, and everyone in the galaxy was watching. The Firok weren't the only ones who had felt the pulse. As it spread, other alien species, those with far-reaching senses, felt it too. Some had already been tracking the galaxy's most dangerous worlds, searching for untapped resources. But what they now sensed in Earth was something far more terrifying. A living, breathing weapon. A world capable of unimaginable destruction, fueled by its own energy. As the Feruck continued to descend upon Earth, other fleets began to gather in the far reaches of space. None of them knew what they were dealing with, but all of them knew one thing. Earth was no longer just another planet. It had become a threat. A world unlike any other, with a power so dangerous that it could shift the balance of the entire galaxy. Max and Leo finally ran toward the exit, the sound of footsteps above them growing louder. They had no plan, no idea of what to do next. Their world had been turned upside down, and the only thing they could do was escape. But as they neared the surface, a sudden realization hit Max. Earth wasn't just a target anymore. It had become a battleground, one that would tear apart everything they knew. They burst into the open air, only to find themselves staring up at the Feruck fleet. Massive ships loomed overhead, blocking out the sun. The Feruck soldiers had arrived, and they weren't alone. Other ships hovered in the distance, drawn by the signal Earth had sent out into the galaxy. The galaxy was about to change forever, and Earth had become the center of it all. Max and Leo stood frozen, their gazes locked on the colossal fleet of alien ships now filling the sky. The air felt heavy, as if the planet itself had taken a deep breath in preparation for what was about to unfold. The Feruck ships were only the first to arrive, but they would not be the last. Earth's signal had drawn attention from every corner of the galaxy. The very world they called home was now the stage for an intergalactic conflict. Max turned to Leo, his mind racing. What have we done? We've triggered something beyond us. Leo swallowed hard, the weight of their situation sinking in. I never thought it would come to this. We were just trying to learn. I didn't mean to. The words hung in the air, unspoken but understood. There was no going back. Earth was no longer a quiet little planet, lost in the vastness of space. It had become the focal point of an impending storm, one that would determine the fate of billions. Above them, the Feruck ships continued to descend, their engines roaring as they prepared for landing. The soldiers on board would be the first to set foot on Earth, but they were not alone. Max could feel the presence of other ships moving in, their movements calculated and ominous. We need to hide. Get underground, Max urged, his voice sharp with urgency. If we stay out here, they'll find us. But Leo remained still, his eyes still fixed on the sky, where the first of the Feruck ships began to lower, casting a shadow over the landscape. The ground rumbled beneath their feet, sending small tremors through the ground. Leo's mind, once consumed with excitement over his invention, was now overcome with terror. What had once seemed like a harmless project now had the potential to destroy everything they knew. I can't run. I have to stop this, Leo said, his voice trembling but determined. Max grabbed Leo by the arm, pulling him toward a nearby bunker. We don't have a choice, Leo. The best way to stop this is to stay alive. We can't do anything from here. As they reached the safety of the bunker, Max's mind was on overdrive. He had no idea what would happen next, but one thing was certain. Earth's fate was no longer in their hands. The signal had reached the galaxy's most dangerous species, and now every race in the universe would be coming for a piece of what Earth had to offer. Inside the bunker, the two boys crouched behind cover, watching the entrance as the sounds of alien ships grew louder. Max's breath quickened as his thoughts raced. They had to figure out a way to disable the signal, to undo the damage Leo had done. But how? Max turned to Leo, his mind already making calculations. If we could get to the device and shut it off, maybe we can stop them. It's the only chance we've got. Leo nodded, his face pale but resolute. He knew that if they didn't act fast, they would be at the mercy of the invading forces. But as he looked at the device back in the main lab, something nagged at him. He had no idea how it worked. The technology was far beyond anything Earth had ever seen. It was a weapon, not just a signal emitter, and he had unknowingly activated it. "What if we can't stop it?" Leo whispered, his voice trembling. "What if we've made things worse than we can ever imagine?" Max swallowed hard. He didn't have an answer. All he knew was that standing still, doing nothing, would be the worst choice they could make. Outside, the Ferox ships had finally touched down. The first wave of soldiers began to disembark, their armored figures moving swiftly across the terrain. They were unlike anything Max and Leo had seen before. Tall, imposing, with sleek, angular armor that shimmered in the light. Their weapons were formidable, each one designed to incapacitate or eliminate any threat. And as they spread out, the boys realized something even more terrifying. The Ferox were not the only ones on the move. From the corners of the sky, other ships appeared, alien crafts of all shapes and sizes, some smooth and sleek, others jagged and menacing. The galaxy's most dangerous species had heard Earth's call. The signal Leo had unwittingly unleashed had become a beacon for the worst of the galaxy's predators. Max clenched his fists, his heart pounding in his chest. "We don't have much time. We need to get to the device now." Leo hesitated, his mind still reeling from the consequences of his actions. But he knew Max was right. There was no more time for fear. If they didn't act fast, Earth would be lost to the galaxy's most terrifying creatures. Together, the two boys emerged from the bunker, carefully making their way toward the lab where the device lay. The sounds of alien ships and soldiers grew louder as they approached, and Max's heart raced faster. The closer they got, the more desperate their situation became. But as they reached the entrance to the lab, a sudden realization struck. Earth wasn't just a target for these invaders. It had become the final battlefield, the last stand for all life in the galaxy. And Max and Leo were the only ones who could stop it. With one last, determined look at each other, they stepped inside, ready to face whatever awaited them, and hoping, against all odds, that they could undo the nightmare they had unleashed.